recording. All right. So it is July the 9th. It is 7:45, close enough. We are meeting over Zoom because several people preferred it that way. First item is the consent calendar of the minutes, the treasurer's report, and the BAIP report. I'm taking a quick look at the BAIP report because I have not done that before. If anybody else has thoughts or comments on that, now is a good time. It mentions the new Riverside Park Field House, and that's the second time I've heard that mentioned, but I haven't been around in order to go see it. Has anybody been there, explored it? No, Peter, not even you? You're muted, unmute.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's very nice, and bathrooms are great too. So
where is it?
Definitely worth a visit. It's between 105th and 106th Street.
No. It's further south. It's by, it's further south.
Casey's correcting my geography.
You're talking about the volunteer house. This is something new and different.
Yeah, that's not it. It's down underneath that promenade thing, like the Ellington Cafe is. It's the next one of those outcroppings. Kind of like a patio and then ball fields below.
Oh.
Right.
And they've been rebuilding the stairway for a couple of years. And I think it's intended for like summer camp activity and stuff like that. And it's beautiful. They did a great job.
I'll have to go down and look on it. Peter, the reason why I know that you were thinking of the Peter J. Sharp Volunteer House, not the new field house, is because when somebody said it to me the other day, that's exactly what I said. And then whatever Casey just said was what the person said to me. So been there, done that. All right, I'm looking at the BAIP report, and other than my comment about the field house, it all looks very straightforward to me. They are a busy bunch of bees, as always. Celia sent us the minutes, which I also have open. And I did not read these minutes, although Celia had sent me a very extensive wrap-up of the last meeting following it, which I did read. Does anybody have any comments or corrections or suggestions about the minutes of the May meeting? No, the June meeting.
The only thing I would say is that Celia wouldn't put this in the notes, but she and Ginger ran a great meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ginger, and thank you, Celia. Okay, and the third piece is the treasurer's report, which Ethan sent us. I hope you've had a chance to look at it. It only just came in the last day or so. It looks like our income for this month was $3,354. Celia, I'll say that again for your note taking, 3,354 and 71 cents. Our expenses were 2,150 and 47 cents. So we spent less than we earned, always a good thing.
So we earned a little bit of money last month. As you see there, we also have created a CD account and transferred 25,000 of the money over into that account, so we can earn some interest on it. It's a 9-month CD. It'll earn us 4.25% on the on a compounded basis over that period. So I think we have still plenty of cushion for expenditures over the next 9 months. We have 24,000 plus in the bank at the moment.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for taking care of that transfer. That was a good idea you had, and I'm glad you were able to follow it through and take care of it.
Thanks, Celia. She came, had to make a stop down there with us to do that, since we were not just spending money or signing things, but we were actually creating a new account for that CD. So.
And that'll be necessary anytime there is some sort of change to the Chase account system?
Yeah. Now we can change that by assigning it to either Ethan or me if we wish. I hate to have to always call Celia for these kinds of things, but I don't know how you feel about it, Celia. Do you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, I'd like the board to decide. I don't mind if they, if they give you or Ethan authority to do another investment, another CD investment once this one matures, that's fine with me. But I just want the board to approve it.
To approve renewing it when that time comes.
Yes, without my having to authorize it. The way it stands now, I have to be present to authorize the renewal or any change that's being made in the CD. Now, if the board says it's okay, that authorization could be given to Ethan or Gary. The way I understand it, the authorization would be for the CD renewal. It won't be for authorizing people who are leaving or people who are getting signing privileges.
I understand.
I think that it actually, once the CD account is created, if we decide to put another $10,000 in there, I think we ought to have the authority to be able to do that. I think we always will discuss these things with the board because it affects, what kind of spending ability we have along the way and the rest of it. But it does seem like a little bit cumbersome arrangement to have the recording secretary present for what are strictly financial transactions.
So it makes sense to me that before that 9 months is up, that yes, we should make that change, but I would feel more comfortable doing that when we have more of our board members present. We only have 2/3 at the moment. Ginger?
I think you do have to have the board approve it if it's not part of the budget. At any time there's an expense that hadn't been budgeted for, or an action with the finances that hadn't been presented for the year, it should be authorized by the meeting prior to the renewal. I mean, that's just standard, practice.
Well, this is not affecting the position of the organization, since we're not spending any money.
Right.
We're simply
Right.
investing to get higher returns on it. And that seems to me to be different from,
Right. Well, it has to be reviewed in terms of everyone having a chance to look at, why we're making it at this particular point. Does it make sense to be? It's just not an automatic thing done when it's a board.
What was the date
oversee.
that the transfer was made?
I don't have the date in front of me, but it's about 3 weeks ago. It'll be in February February, I believe, when it renews. So
Okay, so we have plenty of time between now and then to both discuss what we're going to do at that time and figure out how to change the paperwork so that Celia does not continue to need to be present. Yes?
Yes.
Any other? I guess my question is, I'm looking at the treasurer report and looking to see how if the transfer is reflected on this report. Is it?
I think so. I think it is.
Yes, I believe so too.
You're
it's
talking
hard
about
to
the
see.
putting the money into the CD? That's definitely on the report.
Okay, is that the net part that's in parentheses, the 24,000?
That's what's left after we move the 25 out of the checking account into the CD account.
Okay. I am not sure why I'm not seeing that.
See the bottom of the page that he sent us?
I'm looking at a sheet called June 2024. Checking balance May 30, checking balance June 30.
That's May we're looking at. This is for June,
Yeah, I'm looking at the treasurer's report for June 2024 that Ethan sent the other day. Maybe that was yesterday. I think that's what I'm looking at. It says treasurer's report for June 2024. Monthly meeting,
It's
9
on the
July.
right, Hetty, it's on the right-hand column. You might have to move your cursor over or something.
Okay,
It says balance June 30th, 2024. It shows the $24,325 that's left. And on the right, it says 25,000 transferred to CD.
can you tell me what column and what
It's the
row?
right-hand column. It's on the.
I have it opened in Excel.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at it in Word.
Well, that can be a conversation for another time, how a document that was sent in Excel opens in Word.
I generally don't look at the Excel one because it's in about 3-point type. And I
Right.
can't actually read it.
Okay, I see in his highlights that it's here.
But it's also below that on the list. But again, it's on the Word document. It's before the attachment.
Oh, I see it
Okay.
in the body of my email, not the actual Excel document. Let's close that. That's just confusing. All right, this is much easier to follow. I see the Bloomingdale Bites income. Okay, good. So those are our 3 consent calendar items. Does anybody want to make a motion to accept them?
I move that we accept them.
Would somebody like to second?
A second.
Thank you, Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Ginger? Aye. Okay,
aye.
so consent calendar has been approved. Yay. All right, going into old business. The first item is tax status. David is standing by. We have a nice view of the ceiling. And when he's back, there he is. He can unmute and talk to us about where he's at with his explorations about our tax status.
Yeah, hi, thanks, everybody. It's nice to meet everybody.
David, thank you for doing this and thank you for coming.
Oh, sure. I'm at the library in Columbia University. This is not my house. But yeah, you had mentioned, Hetty, that you thought at some point the IRS had not approved 501c3, but said you were 501c4. And I'd asked Gary and Ethan by email as co-treasurers if they have any of his records. Who has the records of the association, such as they are? That would be helpful.
Ginger, is that among what
Yeah.
you have?
No, I've never had those. Celia, I know, has some documents.
Who did you say?
Celia, does Celia have them?
Oh. Yeah, I don't know that we were turned down for it. I think when Alan Saget, who was the last one who explored this, did his explorations, he was the one who came up with that we wouldn't qualify for a C3 and instead applied us for C4.
I could see why you thought that, because when you read the rules, it seems like civic associations, like a block association, wouldn't qualify. But another person, I forget who, sent some email around saying, some other block associations are 501c3, including the Gramercy Park Block Association and the West 78th Street / Museum Block Association. And I looked at their tax filings, and they give a pretty generic statement. Oh, we are, founded to encourage knowledge about the historic nature of our area or something like that. So, I mean, I think maybe we could do that. I think we also need to amend our charter, because our charters, which was filed in 71 originally, and there was a statement of change, which I think was to change the address or something. That was filed in 93. Yes. But the original charter says it's a type A nonprofit corporation, and then and that was in 71. And New York State amended the law in 2014 to say, if you said you were a type A corporation, you will now be deemed to be a non-charitable corporation. And we can't get IRS exemption if we're non-charitable. So we have to fix that. I'll look into doing that. And then I guess what we do is just apply again for the 501c3. I want to look at what some of the block associations who did get it, what they wrote in their, you can't see the application, but they have to file a return every year. And in that, they state what their purpose is. And like I said, the two that I looked at, Gramercy Park and 78th Street Museum, they said stuff we could say. They're dedicated to maintaining the area and educating people about the historic neighborhood or something like that. Now, I guess you could argue Gramercy Park and Museum of Natural History are more historic, but our neighborhood's historic too. I guess we could talk about some of the things that are historic about our neighborhood.
Yeah, so, we do occasional programs about the
so I think we could
historic
definitely,
aspects.
take another crack at it. Just file a form. There's a form you file called Form 1023 or something, asking to get to be treated as 501c3. But to be 501c4, the difference, as you may know, is 501c4 doesn't have to pay taxes on your income if you have any income. 501c3 also doesn't have to pay taxes on their income, but as we discussed earlier, Hetty, donations to a 501c3 are deductible by the donor. And that makes them, why people want to get that designation, because you can say to people, if you make a donation, it's tax deductible. So that's what we want to get. But to get the 501c4, you also have to file a form with the IRS. So it would really be helpful if someone had, the records of the company, of the association somewhere, just so I could see what we've done. No one has an idea where it is.
I wonder whether Alan might have anything from when he worked on this.
Is that the person you directed me to?
He's the guy who filed the paperwork in 1993.
Okay, because someone else you mentioned sent me an email today saying he was the president, but he didn't know anything else about it.
David Reich was a former chair and a former treasurer and former newsletter editor, lots of different things.
It just,
I can email him and ask him if he does have any
if
paperwork.
anyone has anything, if anyone has
Yeah.
anything.
I-
I realize
I
now
have-
maybe it's not in paper anymore. When I,
I
when I was
have
a
a
lad, we had
copy.
everything written down.
I have a copy of a certificate of incorporation.
Yeah,
Right,
I
we
had
have
it
that.
provided that. I have that. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
helpful, thank you. And that's where I saw that we was formed in 71 and we said we were a type A corporation. The law's been changed since then. So one thing we need to do is amend that, which is easy to do. I can
Just let me add
work on
one
that.
thing. I'll add
Yeah.
one thing to this, which is that there's something strange about what our status is, because each time Celia and I have gone into well, to get me designated as a person authorized to sign checks and other things, and also when we took Ethan in to do that,
Mhm.
people at the Chase Bank looked up on the state register of not-for-profit organizations, and we're not listed there.
Hmm.
So you know, I don't know how we know we're actually a not-for-profit organization. And,
Well-
and each time we showed them the same piece of material, which
Mhm.
is actually, I think, the application for the nonprofit status, and maybe there's in them the original authorization as a type A corporation on it, but it's not we're not listed in the state register of not-for-profit
Well, let
organizations.
me look into that because the document that I was sent shows that it was filed in 1971, and there's a receipt from the Department of State saying that it was, that it was filed. So I don't know whether it got dissolved. Sometimes they dissolve you without your knowledge or something. But I have here the document you sent me, Harry, from May 13, 71. And it's just a filing receipt from the Department of State saying, receipt acknowledged of for filing a certificate of incorporation. So it should be there. So what do you do now with Chase? Does Chase think you're an association or something, not a corporation?
They let it go because we showed them this thing that we had applied for 50 years ago, and
Wait, so you do have that? That was an application for tax exemption?
yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's what I asked if someone had. So that would be helpful if I could get a copy of that.
That's the application you have, I think, which is
No, the only thing I have is the certificate of incorporation from 1971. I don't have anything like an application to the IRS or anything like that.
I think I sent you one in email.
Well, I apologize if I overlooked it. Let me look.
But in any case, it isn't.
I'm just reconnecting my phones.
Yeah, I
So
see it
Gary,
here.
you have the actual application or you just have the certificate?
I have a copy of the application.
Is that what you?
That's what I sent you.
I don't see anything attached to what you sent.
Maybe
This
you could send it again, Gary, just.
I apologize. This is you sent this. Hi, David. Thanks for taking on this task.
Yeah,
That's the email. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't see anything attached.
I'll send it again.
Apologize. Maybe my
I'll
email is
send it.
down. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Right.
That'd be very helpful. I'll also check about the what the status is with New York State, because it looks like it was filed, and then they filed some kind of a certificate of change in '93. It's usually to change the address or something. So I'll see what's on file with the Secretary of State. And then I apologize, Gary, if I didn't get your attachment. I didn't see it. But I
Is
think-
it the one called not-for-profit certificate of change?
Well,
Oh,
I'm not going to look it up
This
now.
is the email you sent to me, Gary,
I'll send
at 5:47 yesterday, right? Or is there another one?
I have a question in
No,
regard
this
to
is
the income
approved.
that,
I see.
Oh.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ginger, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This what this relates to us being nonprofit. I was just wanted to ask about the Bites income that we received this past month. Was that reimbursement for expenses? Because we shouldn't be taking in any, gain if we're nonprofit.
That was
We have
our
to-
share of the income from the Bloomingdale
Right.
Bites food event.
But then that would be, in a sense, income. I mean, people paid money just for their food, and then we got a share of it. So that is, in a sense, I mean, it's a small amount, but I'm just, calling attention to it in case as we go on, taking in income that we would just check where it's coming from.
Well, if you're a nonprofit, nonprofits hold fundraising events all the time. You get in trouble if you're a nonprofit, if you have a business that isn't connected to your nonprofit purpose, and then you have to pay income tax on that. But I would think, I don't know the details of the Bloomingdale Bites situation. But
Right.
It actually was
But
sponsored.
it wasn't the same like as a contribution, like at Halloween. People give money at the table, when they get refreshments, they'll give us a contribution for.
Yeah.
In other things we have in the street, we ask for contributions. Would that be like the same as paying your dues?
Right,
Well,
it's
yeah,
definitely not
But this
dues.
would be right, and the Bites wasn't dues, so I'm just.
I mean, it
just
sounds like it was a
raise-
fundraising event, like a street fair or something.
It was an event sponsored by the Columbus Amsterdam Business Improvement District
Mhm.
that both the 104th Street Block Association and our Block Association participated in. And
How did they
in
participate? Just
recognition of
promoting
our
it, or did they actually do anything?
we helped get it together. We helped organize it. We helped acquire the food the evening of. We did purchase some of the supplies, which I had paid for personally, and I was reimbursed personally. And then I believe that it wasn't so much that you were paying for food, but that it was a donation that gained you entry to the event, and then the food was there. I think the Bloomingdale, the Business Improvement District was being careful about that as well. And in recognition of the participation of the two block associations, the net contributions that the attendees made was divided.
What's the difference between paying for food and paying for the event? I guess I don't really understand what the issue is here. It was a fundraiser. Are we not allowed to have fundraisers? That's what it was. It was 3 groups. We got donated food. We charged for people to come in, and then we split the proceeds.
You
Yeah,
know
I
that
don't-
it matters when it's something, I'm thinking like, certain movie events. You can't charge people to come and see it, because if you are not paying for the rights to the movie, then you can't be making money showing the movie.
Yeah,
So the
that's-
way people do that is just to say, we'd love to have you at our event. And then they show the movie. They try to divorce it
Well,
from.
Okay, but
Go ahead, David.
that's to avoid, a claim by the owner of the copyright of the movie
Correct.
that
Yes.
you're making money showing their movie and not paying them a royalty. That's different than, holding
Correct.
a fundraising event where, you're selling cupcakes or something. Yeah, that happens all the time with the movies, where people rent a movie and then show it to a bunch of people as a
Right.
fundraiser. And if the movie company finds out, and
Yeah,
you're
but
breaking,
and it's true that we've had fundraisers and we've made lots of money from our yard sale, spring events.
no, you're allowed to have
Um,
fundraisers. Now, there's rules. The IRS is concerned about nonprofits kind of running a profitable business and saying, "Oh, I don't have to pay taxes on that because it's because I'm a nonprofit," and they have a whole bunch of guidelines of saying, "Well, this is unrelated business income of your association." and you have to pay taxes on it, but I wouldn't be
Right.
concerned about that at all. Do
Right.
does
I
the
guess-
association file any tax returns, do you know?
No, we haven't.
Have
We
not,
haven't
yeah.
these last 2 years. I don't know what we have before.
As far as I know, we haven't been filing returns.
And you may
Ever.
not need to, depending on how much money you have.
All right, so
Um,
I'll write an email to both David and to Alan Saget to find out whether anybody has. We just lost David. To see if we can find out if anybody does have any of that original paperwork. I don't think Sue was on the board in 1993. Hard to remember that far back, but I hope David can get back on. I wonder if he was timed out at the library. And we'll see what else he needs from us in order to proceed with figuring out whether we should be filing tax returns, and why we don't show up in the New York State Registry.
Wasn't Sue the treasurer in 93? Or does it go too far back?
I think that's awfully far back, and it's possible. I'll
Or that
ask
she might have
her.
inherited them? If she inherited them, any papers?
I will ask. Don't know.
Okay.
All right, let's
I'd
proceed.
like to add something. I don't know this for a fact, but sometimes not-for-profit with a checking balance of under $50,000 may not be asked to file taxes, but I don't know that for a fact. But I heard that.
Okay. Something for us to be aware of.
I heard it from a board member who is not present, and I don't know if it's exactly the way I explained it.
Okay, but it's something to follow up. Since Ethan is not here, we can't discuss software questions that I see in notes from the last meeting might be important to discuss, so we'll table that for a future meeting. And by then, Ethan will have had more time to figure out whether the software we're using is desirable or if there would be something else that he'd be more comfortable with. Okay. Were there any other issues to discuss pertaining to the second agenda item is Treasury funds investment? That's already happened. I don't know what more we need to discuss. Was there more, Gary or Celia?
No, I think we've talked about it already. I think it's just on the next agenda, or maybe in the fall, or whenever it seems we can get a quorum, we should come back to that issue of who has authority to move stuff back and forth into the CD account on it. The other, I think, just for those that don't know the story, when Ethan took over essentially the computerized half of the treasurer's task, what he discovered was that there were two different systems being used. One is for the financials and the other is for tracking the donations by individuals. And they weren't compatible, and both did. And I think the second one does not run on a Mac, which is what he uses. And so there's a compatibility issue, and there's a question of whether making a lot of work for ourselves because we have to rewrite, we have to refile all the materials into the second one that isn't compatible with the first one.
Right. Okay.
So he
So when
knows
Ethan is with us, we can
Yes,
follow up on that and figure it out.
And
Okay.
you may, this is David Carroll. Sorry, I lost my power and just got back in. I
Okay.
apologize for missing the last few minutes, but I don't think, if you haven't filed this stuff in the past, they usually don't care that much. Let's just sort of figure out how to go forward.
Okay.
Just see what we did file. If anyone has records, that would really help.
Once we lost you, we recapped that. I will send an email
Sorry
to
about that.
the lawyer who worked on 1993 and David, who was a very active chair and treasurer and did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And also a former treasurer named Sue Maderer, to see if anybody has any of that lying around.
Yes, there's no like minute books or papers or files, or box of papers or anything like that around. Yeah, okay.
Not as far as I know.
Well, maybe one of these people will have it.
Yeah,
That would be good to have. All right.
it would be.
In the meantime, I'll check on why you couldn't find us in New York State and start looking at filing an application.
Okay.
And we need to amend our charter, I think, but that's not hard to do. Okay.
Is the charter the same as the certificate of
Yeah, probably.
incorporation?
Yeah, we kind of use it interchangeably. It's the same as the
Okay.
certificate of incorporation.
And that's the
And-
thing that will change our
Yeah, this
status
type
from
A thing. Yeah,
A to,
you want to be a charity. Now by New York decreed, if you were type A after 2014, you're non-charitable. So we want to be charitable. So we fixed that. The IRS will say, oh, you're not a charitable association. Maybe that's why they didn't approve it. And if you wouldn't mind, Hetty, sending me an email just of who are the officers of the association and who's on the board and who are the officers. Thanks very
Sure.
much. Sorry to have dropped out there for a minute.
that's okay. I will send you those things. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, do you need anything else from us?
No, that's enough to start. Then we'll, as we go along, I'm sure there'll be, any records that you could find would be great. That would be a big help. Anything, even if it looks really old or why it's not relevant, anything anyone has. Thanks.
Okay. So we're going to, yes, Celia, go ahead.
No, I'll talk to you about it later. I don't think, I have here a filing receipt that says incorporation, not for profit type A, but you have that.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Never
that's
mind.
fine then. Thank you though. Thanks for checking. If you find anything else, let me know.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay. So moving on, anything else related to tax status, treasury, funds being transferred, and the software compatibility, double effort questions? Okay, David, you're welcome to stay if you would like to, but if you have
If you don't mind,
other things you need to do,
I'm at the Columbia
library.
Library and they're gonna start throwing people out in a few minutes.
Okay.
So,
we wouldn't want that.
for the evening. No, that's fine.
Okay.
But I'll be in touch with you. Thanks. It's nice to meet everybody.
Great. Thank you for coming,
Thank
David.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Thank you.
doing this. I feel much better knowing that somebody's paying attention to that stuff. All right, moving down the agenda, we have the question mark item of election of vice chair. That was something that we had discussed at our May meeting. I don't know if it came up at all in June. We had talked about officially making someone a vice chair, and there was really nobody who was eager to do that. And as I said at the time, if nobody's eager to do it, as long as everybody is willing to take on some responsibilities once in a while as their time and schedule and areas of interest allow, I think we can function. Thoughts, comments, volunteers? Alrighty then. Honoring Cynthia. So we seem now to have gotten all the money into Riverside Park Fund, which was important. And is her name Nicole? Nicole over at Riverside Park Fund will need from us copy that will get printed on the plaque, and we need to select a bench location. Amy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, a couple of things. So we had thought we would try to combine it with the street naming, if that's going to happen, which you seem to get an indication is going to happen. So maybe we can try to time that. I was thinking about both the location and the message that's on the bench. And I know there are people on this board who knew Cynthia much better than I did. And I thought, you know, maybe a few of you could come up with some wording and we could pass it around and see how everyone feels. I don't feel comfortable being the one wording it. So that was one thought. And in terms of the location of the bench, I thought it would be nice to include Cynthia's family in that choice. I'm only in the city here and there this summer, but when I'm there, I could take a first look and take some photos and come back with some suggestions. I mean, my thought was to try to do it somewhere near where she lived, somewhere near our area. I'm not sure exactly how many options there are. I know some areas in the park, it's impossible to get a bench because they've been taken over, but I think our area, there are some benches that haven't been named. So those are my two thoughts about, or three thoughts about it.
Ginger, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the people we could ask if they, for the wording for the bench, for David and Terrence, and also for former board president who was very supportive of Cynthia when she was first running for office, for city office, and held receptions for her. You know, the very tall man. I mean, these are people that worked with her closely and knew and could see on the ground the work she was doing for the area, for the community.
Trying to think of who you mean.
Yeah, I can't. You know who I mean.
Her. I don't know. Does he still live here? Is he alive?
She worked closely. She worked closely with David, and with
oh, Josh
Terrence.
Davenport.
Yes,
Oh,
and Josh Davenport. He
lives
was
there.
very supportive of her, of her
Right.
political work. You know, and helped raise money for her.
I don't mind sending out a preliminary draft. You know, it's not going to be lengthy. It's just going to basically say in memory
Right.
of her name and maybe a line more than that. Very brief. So I don't mind drafting that, and then anybody who wants to weigh in on it can.
Mm-hmm.
I think if each of us takes a look at locations,
Okay.
that would be helpful.
But I think this would also tie into, though, the, you know, naming a street in her name, showing the community importance that she held. And that's why I was thinking of asking if it's not included on the bench when we do the ceremony, something should be read that ties in all this work she did, so people will know
we would definitely want to have speakers who could speak to her involvement and contribution. Right. We don't need to arrange that just yet. Right now, we need the preliminaries of where's it going to be, what's it going to say, and trying to coordinate a date.
Right.
And
but
then
if
we
there
can
was
figure out.
Okay, but even there's one sentence that could go on the bench that refers to her community work. Besides her, that's all.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be elaborate, but we can elaborate in other ways.
Right. No, I don't think of it as specific just to our block association. I think of it as specific to
Right.
Cynthia and what Cynthia was all about, and that's much broader than
Right,
our
and-
two blocks.
Right, and to her legacy, it's really her legacy
Right,
as well. Yeah.
agree.
Right, okay, very good.
Okay, so the email I have from Sean Abreu's office, when I checked in to see whether they had made any progress with the bench naming, there's a whole series of them, but yes, it has passed legislatively. We greatly appreciate your offer to connect our office with the family so we can hammer out a date and other specifics. CC'd was the Director of Communications and Public Engagement. His name is Milo Gringlas. Celia, that's Gringlas. And suggesting that we meet with Milo, and then they'll submit the paperwork for the sign installation to the Department of Transportation, submit street closure permits, prepare a media advisory and press release, send out elected official invites, and help coordinate the run of show and ceremony proceedings. So I followed up with that to find out how long in advance what needs to happen for the signage has to be done. And she said ideally 4 weeks in advance. So I'm surprised it was as brief as 4 weeks. I expected much longer than that. So if we wanted to aim for something in the late fall, or in the fall, October, I think by the time you get into mid-November, the weather gets dicey, is something we should target. Does anybody have information about contacting her family? Amy, you look like you want to say something. No?
I'm trying to remember who, I feel
I
like,
sent them a note that we all had signed, so I must
Right.
have that address somewhere.
right, and her nephew, does he live in New York? There's one nephew, I think, who lives in the city. A lot of the rest of the family, I think, is in Philadelphia.
Right.
Um,
You know what?
Maybe
Wasn't it
Karen's,
Rochelle who, wasn't it
Yes,
Rochelle
Rochelle,
who
you're
was in
right.
charge? All right,
And
I'm going to
Rochelle,
write to
right.
Rochelle and ask her who the best person in the family to involve in this would
Okay.
be.
That's good.
Okay. So we'll get input from them about a date that might work on their end. We'll do what we need to do in order to figure out the bench, and we'll set up a time to talk with Milo about coordinating it all with the street naming. Yes? I think the tricky part of all of that is going to be making sure that no one part of this event occludes the other part. We want the street naming to be a big thing. We want the bench to be an equal part thing. So we'll just have to proceed and make sure that that happens the way we want. Any other input about Cynthia and the bench and the street naming and the event?
Well, I guess one of the important other projects that attached to it is also the list of people who are going to be invited, or how we get the word out, if, for the politicians and who all going to be there. I guess it's something similar also to when they had the funeral service for her, and different people spoke and were involved in that.
Right. I think Sean Abreu's office is going to take care of a lot of that media stuff. And we will also take care of sending out to our list, and I'm sure 104th Street will send it, and it may be that BAIP will also send it. so that the community knows. And if we can get it organized, if we can get the date organized, we can announce it in the September newsletter, which would be ideal.
Sounds good.
Okay, and even if we don't know exactly who all the speakers will be by then, we'll be able to announce the date and what's going on, and then get our act together in terms of who's going to speak, in addition to whoever Sean Abreu's office wants to invite to speak. It's likely to be a big crowd.
Do you, sorry, do
Amy.
you remember what Nicole said about the time they need to, the time between when we give them the location and the phrasing? Was it 5 weeks, something like that?
I'm looking. Plaque production will take between 1 to 2 weeks, and installation typically takes between 4 and 8 weeks for completion. So if we're aiming for October, by the middle of August, we need to have given her text and, you know, moved it along. So this is,
So this is a dumb question, but all this money, I know it's a charitable donation, but it buys a new bench, right? It will be a new bench. No, it's an
No.
old bench with our plaque on it. Are you sure about that? Okay,
that's the way all of these bench naming things work.
so I'm gonna look for a nicer looking bench.
I think location matters first
Yeah.
and the quality of the bench second.
Right.
Gary, I don't understand what your hand motion meant. Unmute so we can hear you. Still muted. Space bar.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm just being facetious. I wondered why it took 4 weeks to put 4 screws in the
Right.
the plaque on it.
I can bring my drill and do it myself, but I'm sure that they won't let us do that. All right, let's keep going because we want to finish, and we still have a whole bunch of stuff. Bloomingdale Bites update. So Ginger, to fill you in a little better on what that was. David's already gone, so we can't edify him. Bloomingdale Bites was this joint event that was put together by the Business Improvement District with the participation of 104th Street and our Block Association. And it was successful beyond anybody's expectations. So many people. There were people who needed to be turned away, which was unfortunate. And we have since met with Dan Bernstein and Steve Zarinsky about how we could, because everybody wants to do it again, how we could organize it better to avoid the disappointment of people being turned away and make the flow smoother and such like that. And Amy and I met with them, was that just last week? 27th, I think it was.
Yeah, a week or two ago.
And a date was chosen as well as a theme for the next time. I wish I could remember the date, November something.
November 7th, it's a Thursday night. Tentatively, the theme is game night, so board games for
What did we call it? Gaming in the Hood?
Gaming, yeah, that was Hetty's Gaming in the Hood.
It's going to be a combination of a neighborhood history group presentation, if they're willing, on the history of gambling in the neighborhood, because it does seem that there used to be a healthy, enthusiastic gaming population. And also, we'd like to pair up with a establishment called Hacks that's on Upper Broadway up near Columbia that has board games and provides space and is very popular as a way of introducing an activity that'll appeal to a younger constituency. And there may be like backgammon lessons and chess boards in addition to some other board games. The details haven't been all worked out yet, but that's the shape it's taking.
And of course, it would have the restaurants again, the food.
Oh, yeah. So when did we decide to meet? The 25th,
It's next Thursday,
the 18th,
18th.
right? I don't remember what time. 4?
4:30, I think. I'll find the Zoom
I'm looking.
and send it to you.
I didn't put it in my calendar, silly me. Okay, Bloomingdale Bites, 4:30 on the 18th. Okay, so we didn't make a ton of money from it, but we did make several $100s, and we came away thinking that it was a very successful collaboration of the 3 groups, and it seemed like a good way to host an event without stressing out the volunteer issue, because we could pull volunteers from all 3 organizations and get attendees from multiple sources, and that made for a much more successful outcome than Steve said they've been getting or we've been getting. So I found it energizing. Go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to ask whether you thought about the fact that that's 2 days after the election.
I said something about it. Look, life has to go on one way or another. Right? And that was, they didn't want it too close to Thanksgiving because they wanted to try to get Columbia students and Barnard students maybe to come, and I don't know what else to say about that.
Okay.
It's an election. It's going to happen, and people will be happy and people will be unhappy, no matter how it works out. Okay, so any other comments, suggestions, thoughts about Bloomingdale Bites? Moving on. Newsletter update. Thank you for that email, Amy. Amy sent out the lineup for the next newsletter on Monday. I did in fact notice that email. Here it is. Please take note of the deadlines so that you can get whatever it is you've been volunteered to write in on time.
Yeah, one question was the music, make music. It would be nice to have some kind of some summary of how that went. I don't know if that would be Celia or Peter or someone else, but it would be nice to have it. And
So, yeah.
go ahead.
What do you say, Celia? You did such a great job last time.
I'll help with it. It'll be different from last time, but I'll help.
Okay, we will talk.
Yes.
We have.
I already had a conversation with Eliza, who was one
Oh,
of the.
good. Great. That's great. That's great. Good. Yeah,
And
we
then-
have,
yeah.
we have Eliza and Lizzie, not to be confused, but they were
Mhm.
both important to this event. And it was hotter than hell, which, yeah. But we had, the Block Association was there, and Celia and Casey and Elaine Karras from Purple Circle and me manned it or staffed it at different times. And the crowds ranged from thin to healthy, especially healthy when Purple Circle came out. Then that was the high point. And they've been also just great at Street Loves. They have the big kids who are well supervised, and they're like 12 of them, and they just love cleaning the street. It's really amazing. They got little gloves for them, and they do a really good job.
That was the other thing, Peter, I kind of volunteered you for, is either you or Ethan, is a kind of an update on how Street Love's going.
Yeah.
maybe some Photos.
So yes, so I have lots of photos. We were out there today, and the only bad news is we lost Ethan, which is probably why he isn't here tonight too, because he has a new job now with the MTA. He's no longer at JetBlue. So unfortunately, they're very, they're kind of insistent that he doesn't have as much flexibility
Mm.
time-wise. So he can no longer participate unless he can change his hours for that one day. It's a shame because he was just incredibly enthusiastic and really terrific to have. Terrence has been at every event, including today, except for last week when he was out of town. Ira hasn't missed a single event, and neither have I. And we have, we have between 15 and 30 people every week, and I think the streets just look way better when we're done with it, and the trees are getting watered, so they're not dying anymore. So I'm hoping it's making a very visible difference. The people at the Marseille are just absolutely ecstatic with this, and they're very heavy users of the public spaces there.
Great.
And
That's-
the bid has been great. The halfway house has been great. They really are loving this. They're already asking what happens after November. So it's a lot of work. It is exhausting, especially in heat like today.
Mm.
But we did manage to do it, and the trees really, especially the newly planted trees from the city. It's a new tree requires between 30 and 50 gallons of water every single week, and it's critical in their first 2 years of life, and that's why so many of the new trees that the Parks Department plants die. Is they just don't get water, so we're making sure that they do, and the results really show they're all alive and seem to be doing well. So hopefully everybody is really noticing the difference. The bags and bags, I really should take more pictures of the filled bags of trash, which are removed from the area, is really quite amazing. The sidewalks today, for some reason or other, it's usually on the street itself, but today the sidewalks were just a mess between Broadway and Riverside, and all of that got cleaned up. The malls are always a problem area, and they're heavily trafficked too, but it really makes a difference, I think, if we keep after that.
All right,
So
good news. I love the little gloves.
did I send you the picture of the little? So unfortunately, I have a publishable pictures, but we can't use any of the pictures of kids that show their faces. So that's not for public, but I sent you the little one of them with the bags and the gloves, right, Hetty?
I didn't see. Let me look.
Oh, okay. If
Um,
I didn't know, I'll send it to you. It's adorable, but unfortunately, we can't publish that.
Let's see.
But we have carefully posted pictures of the kids where you can't see their faces.
Right,
I
maybe
don't
you
thi-
could get one of, gloved hands doing something without the child's face. That would be
That's a
adorable.
good idea. That's a good idea. They weren't available this week, but they'll be back next week. That's right.
Okay.
It's the high point is always the purple circulars.
Peter, do
And
you have
there's
any recollection whether you sent me those pictures by email or by text?
I may not have because I was being so careful with whom
Uh-huh.
I send them to.
I don't
I'll
see it here.
okay, don't worry about it. I'll
Okay.
text it to you, Hetty, just for yucks and giggles.
Okay. Generally speaking, if it's something that we do want to publish, doing it by email rather than text
Yeah,
is good.
Yep.
But if it's just for me to enjoy seeing, then
Yep.
it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. Amy, do you have anything to say about the CB7 cabinet?
We met last month. We're meeting again next Tuesday. And I have to say, I hate to say this, but there are a couple people in this group who seem to just need a place to vent, and they're not very respectful to other people's time, including Max, who's trying to run this meeting, and they pretty much derailed it the last meeting, and I just took myself out of the meeting early because I was so annoyed. And then I wrote a note to Max saying, I just felt like these people are not paying attention. I mean, they wouldn't raise their hands. They just interrupted people in a Zoom. And in any case, he agreed with me. He promised that at the beginning of our next meeting, he's going to lay down the rules again about how we're supposed to interact. I mean, it's amazing that you would have to do this with adults who've been on Zooms for years. But anyway, I'm not giving up on it yet, but I can't say that there's much that I've gotten out of them the last few months. They're just a lot of belly aching about things and being nasty. So hopefully I have something better to say next time.
I hope so. The next two agenda items were both sort of Peter's domain, open streets and street love, but we just spoke of that. So have we covered that sufficiently, or do you have anything you want to add, Peter?
The only big event that we're planning this year will be Barking Day, and we're waiting for a date from Animal Care and Control when their mobile adoption van and staff will be available. And it'll be September, October, or November. We don't know yet, but we probably will in the next 2 weeks. So it should be in time for the newsletter article.
Right. Excellent. Good. I wanted to mention residential permit parking letter of support. We had talked about it briefly in May, and I believe we tabled it. Now that congestion pricing has been tabled, it's become a little less of a burning issue, but I wanted to raise the question of, do we want to wait a bit and just keep it as an open item? Or do we want to weigh in and say, sooner or later this is going to happen? And anybody have any thoughts about whether we want to make our opinion known about parking by resident permit?
Well, I guess I feel about it that if we're going to make an opinion, it should be an informed opinion. And there are people that have been working on this for quite a long time. both for and against, because there are some negatives, lots of negatives to it as well. And my preference would be that we organize sometime, not in the summer when nobody's here, but in the fall, a discussion session on this subject before we write a piece, and especially now that we have a little bit of time to worry about this but if we did something in October, for example, and I could help put together some people who are knowledgeable about this. Sam Schwartz lives in the neighborhood. There's a wonderful person who's the transportation person for RPA, and there are others, that have worked on this subject for a long time.
Okay, I wonder if that might be a good topic for a public forum if we wanted to host an evening on that topic. So, all right, I'll keep that as an open item. I agree with you. I certainly don't know enough about the ins and outs and the pros and the cons. And I think it might be an interesting topic to invite people to come and listen.
Can I
Amy?
just say that if we would like to do it this fall, which I think would be a little bit ambitious, but it would be great, we need to know a date and be able to announce it in the newsletter, which is about a month from now. So I would like to suggest that we give Gary permission to look into this and come back with a proposal and hopefully make a decision before mid-August about whether we're going to try to do it in the fall.
We need to go firm up the newsletter. Is that right?
I propose that we don't do it for fall because with Halloween in the fall and trying to do Cynthia's thing in the fall, that's enough for the fall. And this is the kind of thing that could be a wintertime indoor event. So we don't need to fast track it, but we should keep at it and start the discussions now because it does take time to collect people with different calendars.
Right.
Ginger, go ahead.
Yes, and it also sounds it could be possibly our annual meeting theme.
That's true
Next
for
month.
next spring.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing about that is we couldn't really have a robust presentation and discussion if we know that the annual meeting has all its stuff after that. I mean, I actually would like to see it be its own thing, not attached to the annual meeting, honestly. Like maybe in February or, whatever date people, I just don't want it to, I don't want to feel like we have to rush through it because we have other things we have to do that night, the whole annual meeting thing.
Right. Next annual meeting, we may want to invite our new assembly member to come and address us.
Yeah,
Okay.
great idea. Michael Asher.
Yep.
Whose parents live in our members of our block association.
Are they really? I didn't know that. I saw the mom at the subway station.
Yeah.
Polling for him. So I thought that was cute. All right, I'm making a note, the annual meeting ? Michael Asher. We'll see.
That's kind of a no-brainer.
Okay, so Gary, if you want to start,
I'll start putting
the preliminaries with an eye on something over the winter.
And I think
that would be great.
February sounds like the right time for it. So let's Wednesday night. When's your winter newsletter out?
December.
Well, that would be okay. That would be
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. We need to decide whether we are going to have a meeting in August. Ordinarily, our meeting in August would be the 13th, I think I saw. Yes. I think if nothing else, we should discuss the Cynthia project.
Mm-hmm.
So what's to discuss of it? I mean, it's just somebody needs to do a draft, a little plaque that goes.
Right. I said I would do that, identify a bench, which we
Yeah.
can pool
Yeah.
our findings
Finding,
via email.
I'm happy to delegate that, and you know, it doesn't seem like worth a meeting.
Okay. I'm looking at what else.
And I think we could wait until September for the for whatever the decision is going to be on the 501c3 or the, and we probably should, because we need a quorum of people to do.
Oh,
that.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, the September meeting will be, we'll be talking about the Halloween party, the bench, and we have quite a few things, but I kind of like the idea of taking a month off.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that as long as we're going to continue the conversation that needs to happen with some time having to do with identifying a bench. Anybody who has time, please go down to the park and see if you can locate one that makes sense, or 2 or 3. I'm, depending on the weather, I may get down there on Friday. But I'm not sure. That's very iffy for me. Ginger, go ahead.
Yeah, well, of course, for the bench also, we have to organize the media and the speakers. I think there are a lot of details that are involved, but we may not need a regular meeting, but someone will have to look into it before.
Right, we need to continue making forward progress
the plans
on
for
that, yes.
right.
Yeah, a lot of that can happen just via email to Rayo's office, and with Rochelle finding out how to get in touch with Cynthia's family, and with Cynthia's family, and then moving on, as you suggested, to getting our speakers in line and seeing what kind of permits we need for the Riverside Park part of it. We did need to do some of that. I remember when we did the Trednari's bench.
Right, to reserve it ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah, and because we were using amplifiers so everybody could hear, we needed a sound permit from the precinct. Okay, so we are not going to have August. New business, building invoices. Since Ethan isn't here and that work may largely fall to him, that's something else we'll table for September. We're going to have to go speedily through our agenda items in September. I think even though we are no longer funding a guard, it is appropriate to send a contribution letter to the buildings. And we've fallen off on our schedule. I don't even know when we last sent them. I know we did get a contribution from the masters recently, but I don't know if that was in response to a letter or just kind of random. So we need to pay attention to that and decide whether we want to change the calculation of what we would like the buildings to contribute, or, leave it as is. So that'll go on the September agenda.
Okay.
I wanted to mention, again, not anything we have to make a decision about, especially because I haven't done the revisions to the bylaws that we discussed at our last bylaws meeting yet. I have 10 days coming up that don't have anything scheduled in them. So I'm really hoping to make some headway on getting that done. But as we just saw, we needed to make a decision about meeting by Zoom or meeting in person. And we did that via email. I feel like there was something else we needed to discuss that we successfully did via email, but now I don't remember what it is. And I want to make sure that when we amend the bylaws, we make a provision for making decisions, not necessarily ones that involve money or expenditures or any kind of significant changes, but just making some of the more minor decisions via email being an acceptable way to do business. So when I revise the bylaws, based on what we've already discussed, I need to update them. Maybe what I'll do is draft something that we can all look at that would cover that. Okay. We haven't had any feedback from the newsletter either for liability insurance and administrative assistant or the creation of the document archive, but those are all important things that we need to pay attention to. I think we'll do it again in the September newsletter. Maybe we'll have more attention in the fall than happened in the June issue. We'll make that the help wanted. And see if we can get a new volunteer, or 2 or 3. I have 9:05 on my clock. Is there anything else anybody can think of that we do need to address tonight and make decisions about? Everybody's very quiet tonight.
It's the heat.
It's very hot. Actually went on the subway today.
Yeah.
It's hot. And I did the bonehead thing that no New Yorker is supposed to do. I missed my stop. And I didn't realize it until like 3 or 4 stops later. And then I had to backtrack. Oh, I was highly embarrassed.
No.
So,
Amy, I
Peter.
have the block association table settings. So shall I drop it off at your building?
You can if you want. If you don't want to deal with it, there's no big rush because Celia confirmed that there wasn't anyone who signed up, or there was one person but wasn't going to be around till the fall anyway. So
Okay.
up to you. No urgency. At some point I
All
can
right.
get
Well,
it from you. You know.
It's well, if you're in town, I can drop it off for you tomorrow if you wish, or if
I
or
won't be back until Friday, till the weekend.
all
So,
right,
yeah.
I'll drop it off later. Then it's
Okay.
safe and sound,
Okay, I figured it would be.
and was resplendent in the heat.
Gary, I have a question for you. I know that I have to be in the city on Wednesday, August 14th. And I know that you and I and Dorothy need to go to the post office.
14th
of August. Take a look and see if you're around either.
Yeah, let me just check.
Could be the 13th, could be the 15th. I could bracket.
Well, 14th, if I have it right, is a Sunday, and that's probably not going to be any good.
I don't know what you're looking at in my calendar. It's a Wednesday.
I have July 2024.
August.
Oh, August, you're going to be in. Okay, let me see what it looks like.
So, and probably Wednesday's not the ideal day, but Tuesday or Thursday would work.
Let me.
You can email me if you prefer.
No, I'll have to email you because I have to check something up for those days whether we're going to be here that week. But
okay. I'm not sure that it's ideal for Dorothy because I know that she has some respiratory issues, and when we have weather like this, she doesn't go outside. She stays in her AC.
I'm a little less
so
urgent because I befriended the superintendent over there, and she's considers me the owner of that box now.
Oh,
so,
good.
So I managed to actually get 2 new, get her to order 2 new keys. I'm worried that one day I would lose the one key that I have, and we'd have no way to get into them. And so I'm going to give one to Evan and to Ethan. I'm sorry, and I'm going to give one Celia, so she has one, and one that they're not there yet. It takes weeks to get keys out of the post office, but as you'd expect. But anyway, I have a friend in behind the counters, so
What's her name?
I'm blocking it. I wrote it down, so I remember.
Is she a small woman, short?
No, she's the person that usually occupies the first
Window?
to on the left-hand side of the row of people that are serving there. That's usually her home location, and so I don't wait in line. I just go directly to that one, and she tends to get stuff done for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. There used to be somebody there named Mrs. Gill who was just a terror.
Well,
All right. Anything else? New business, old business, thoughts, comments?
I'm gonna try to move this recording onto the website. I did it successfully last time, so I should be able to do it again.
Great. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you all. Move
Thank
to
you.
adjourn.
have a good rest of the summer, folks.
Yeah,
Somebody has to second that move.
second.
You too. Hope to see you. And really, the one thing that needs to happen is to figure out a location of the bench and get that moving. So please try and take a minute to get down to the park and send me your 3 top choices, and we'll see if we all come up with the same thing. Or
Great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Take
Thank
care.
you. Good meeting.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
thank you, Ginger. I'm glad you figured all the
Thank
bits
you.
and pieces out.
Well, thank you for all your help.
You're
Many
welcome.
thanks.
And Celia, if you need further help on the naming of the files, how to, organize that, happy to help.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, happy
Night,
summer to
everybody.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.